Welcome, everybody. I'm Laura Stewart. I am your host. I am the SASMAX Director of Online Channel Events, and I'm excited to welcome you here today to our webinar, Protecting Your Customers Starts with Protecting Yourself, LastPass MSP Solution. I'm so excited about this solution. As a former MSP, I love LastPass. I love how it makes it easier to protect your clients and to protect your own business as well. I am also a LastPass customer on a personal level because I swear by the solution. What is so great about it is how it links and makes everything easier to keep really highly secure passwords. So in just about a moment, we're going to get started. I'm going to introduce our speakers, some housekeeping. We value your time greatly, and we will be ending at the time that's been designated, 45 minutes from now. But if there are questions, we will continue going until the questions are answered. And we want to have you ask questions of our speakers today because there's a lot of great information we're going to be presenting. Please type your questions in the Q&A pane. And if you have any other questions, comments, technical issues, please put them in the chat pane, and I will be moderating that throughout our webinar today. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our guests today and our speakers from LastPass, LogMeIn in Business. And I love these two people. Rebecca and Randy, why don't you pop up on camera here so we can see your faces? There you are. And we're all over the country here, so I guess I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because we have people registered and live on here today from all over every time zone. It's amazing.
Hello, thank you so much for having us. So my name is Rebecca Stone, and I am a product marketing manager that focuses specifically on LastPass and ensuring that our MSP partners are successfully using the solution.
And Randy, reporting from Scottsdale here, and I manage the MSP VAR team that can work with you and help you, with these tools and get you started. And really looking forward to sharing some of this information with you.
And before I pass over the deck to you, Rebecca, I do want to comment because we had received a question at the registration. Somebody said, if I sign up to become a LastPass MSP, will I be able to be connected to a live real person? And everybody take a good look at these faces because you will be talking to these people, Rebecca and to Randy, and they will connect you with a real live person to help you onboard and to help your customers.
Absolutely.
And Rebecca, I am passing the deck to you as we speak.
Okay, great. Well, we're so excited to join you all today and share a little bit more about LastPass and our new MSP solution. Let me just share my screen. All right, are you guys able to see my PowerPoint okay?
Yes.
Let me jump ahead. So first we're going to give you a quick overview of the agenda. Randy, do you want to talk through this?
Yeah, I think real high level, we're going to give you some great trends that we're seeing, some that you may be aware of and some that you're not, about really the changing and shaping cybersecurity landscape in today's world, tons of new remote workers. And then we're go over how Identity as a Service, IDaaS, helps reduce the risk for you as customers. It helps you protect your customers and also to help to protect your customers as they're doing a lot of work from home right now. And just a little background on LogMeIn. So we've been around since 2003. We're one of the top 10 global SaaS companies. We have a portfolio of products. We have 16 different products. Some of them you may have heard about. We do $1.3 billion in annual revenue. We're all over the country and all over the world with our employees and our customers, and we do billions of connections every year. within all our different products. And so we'll just take a quick look at the portfolio. Some of these names you may be familiar with. GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, which we're using here, is one of our products. And also GoToConnect, powered by Jive. So it's a great UCaaS solution. We also have IT solutions, including Central, which is an RMM solution. Some of you may be Central customers, and Rescue. How do you reach out and support your end users on their desktop live when they need help? And then the IDaaS solution, which of course is LastPass, which we'll be going into in more detail. But just a quick story. So in March, when things started going crazy and lockdowns started happening, we had a tremendous uptick in business, but we also put together what we called emergency work kits. So it was a combination of our products. So we actually offered for free. We donated $40 million of these products to companies, organizations, schools, government, to help them bridge that gap while they figured out how to move and work remote and take care of the remote workers. And we got a lot of customers out of it, and some, found other solutions, but we're proud to be part of that and help in some small way like that.
Yeah, that was definitely a pretty cool time to be a LogMeIn employee. Now I'm going to transition from our products and start to talk about some of those cybersecurity trends that Randy mentioned. So really what we're seeing is that there are 3 key trends impacting the cybersecurity landscape for MSPs. So the first is small businesses are being viewed as easier targets for cyber criminals. We've also been seeing, especially in this past year, MSPs themselves being identified as an opportunity for cyber attacks. And then, as Randy mentioned, we have this worldwide shift to remote work, where, literally overnight, LogMeIn in particular, we went from having 25 offices to, 3,500 as our team supported each of their employees from working from their home. So I want to jump into these trends in a little bit more detail. So first, these small and medium businesses are being increasingly a target for cyber attacks. This probably isn't super new news to you, but I think it's important to highlight. Cyber Defense Magazine now predicts that about 43% of cyber attacks are targeted at small businesses. And this is something that we've seen increase dramatically in the past few years, primarily because cyber criminals are starting to recognize that SMBs have fewer security protocols than their enterprise peers. Which makes sense, right? Enterprise companies, they're more likely to have a CISO and a security team that's able to really prioritize cybersecurity for their organization, while small businesses don't necessarily have those resources in order to invest in cybersecurity. So cyber criminals are recognizing that and seeing them as easier entry points than their enterprise counterparts.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
On this, so we had a partner that told us this story and why he was getting involved with LastPass, because one of his kind of a little bit larger than small companies, they got hacked and they actually stole their customers' credit cards, and the recovery from that, the cost of that actually put them out of business. So this is, it can be either very costly or be critical, to ending their business if they can't recover. So this is, it's really important stuff to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge driver to why we see small businesses and MSPs accepting or moving towards a IDaaS solution. The other reason that we're seeing cybersecurity or cyber criminals target these small businesses is really gateways to other larger companies. So, for example, the Target data breach that happened a few years ago, that resulted in a loss of about 40 million credit cards was actually linked to a successful cyber attack of a small HVAC company that controlled the heating and cooling for several Target locations. So, for cyber criminals, hacking these smaller businesses can actually lead to a pretty significant payday. But what we've found, and I think cyber criminals are now realizing that they've found another opportunity for a larger payday, and that's diving into our second trend here, which shows that recent attacks on MSPs, show that cyber criminals have identified MSPs as a source. And I think this isn't too surprising, but definitely a newer trend, especially given the fact that MSPs, have administrator access to their clients' networks. So a lot of times they have the right credentials for accessing, their VPNs or things like that. It's also provides cyber criminals with the ability to access a multitude of different businesses with one successful attack. And then, some MSPs are really targeted in terms of the customers they work with. So it's an opportunity to reach, specific government or financial or corporations. And I think one of the main things we're hearing from our MSP partners is that not only are they using LastPass to protect their customers, but given this trend, they're also using LastPass more and more to protect themselves. And ensure that those administrator credentials that they have, access to are being stored securely and are being shared with only the technicians that require access to them. In addition, locking down those credentials may be used to access like your RMM or to remote into specific customers' computers are also huge use cases that we're hearing from just our MSP partners for protecting their own business. The third trend is this, worldwide shift to remote work. So we've talked about, the trends of hacking small businesses and also MSPs. So these were trends advancing over the last couple of years, but in order to create the perfect storm, we had COVID come in, and now that changed the cybersecurity landscape completely. And I think we fully expect that this new normal of working from anywhere is here to stay. So some historical context I like to reference when looking at the impact of COVID on the remote workplace is actually the SARS outbreak back in 2003. So in hindsight, it's credited with accelerating the e-commerce channel in China. And so similarly, I think we fully expect that the coronavirus has accelerated the adoption of the remote workforce on an even larger global scale. So pre-COVID, about 7% of businesses offered remote work. Even though the interest was there, employees wanted the flexibility, we had the technology to support the remote work, and overall the goal to reduce the carbon footprint was being adopted by many organizations. But very few companies, took that leap of faith and actually, supported remote workers. But then, with coronavirus, 300 million people started working outside the office. And I think post-coronavirus, even when, it's safe to go back into the office, it's being predicted that over 25% of the US workforce will continue to work remotely. And many more will have a hybrid work environment where, they're working in the office a few days a week and working from home for the rest of the time. And I think with this move to remote work, you have to take into account the risks associated with it. So this new normal of working from anywhere has very much changed the threat landscape. So for one, we know cyber criminals are just feeding into the chaos. Ransomware attacks and phishing and malware have increased by 148% since the start of COVID-19. Cybercrime reports in FBI's Crime Complaint Center have quadrupled. And the US Federal Trade Commission recently said that Americans have lost over $12 million to coronavirus scams since January. So more specifically, we read an article recently sponsored by Pulse Secure that highlighted the areas that, IT professionals were most concerned about with moving to a work from anywhere environment. So a few of the concerns were home public Wi-Fi security, have employees locked down their Wi-Fi with a strong password, have they even turned on the lock for their Wi-Fi. The second was the use of work devices for personal use. So, with everyone being at home, it gives a whole new perception and meaning to bring your own device. Who else in the home is using the computer? Is a child logging onto a computer and downloading software for a project onto their parents' work computer. We also heard lack of perimeter. So there's sensitive data that's no longer contained to a physical office location. So how is IT supposed to, or how are you as MSP supposed to protect that sensitive data? And then finally, lack of visibility and access. So who's logging into the web applications? Who has access when you're onboarding a remote employee to specific cloud applications? And how do you keep track of those? So a common theme amongst all of this is that, there's concern about how much of these risks can be, how these risks are kind of adding on to each other with this increase in phishing, malware, and hacking. But I think that we're seeing that most of these risks can be mitigated by the right identity solution. Randy, do you want to share a little bit about the role of IDaaS?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca. Identity and access management, IAM, is really essential for MSPs and to help the smaller and the small to medium businesses adapt these practices to prevent some of the things that Rebecca was talking about. And so we've identified 3 key areas. One is secure access. And this is really ensuring that every employee has access to the right application at the right time from anywhere. And so remember that lack of visibility from the IT manager of who's doing what and who's accessing what. This will really help overcome that and be able to capture logs and things like that so you can see and monitor and stay on top of it. So for an example, at your MSP solution, not only means that technicians can access certain customer applications, but also that your employees can do certain things and access different areas. And just for a quick sneak peek, so we're going to talk more about our LastPass MSP solution, but we actually offer you free seeds to help you protect yourself. So we believe so strongly in that. So we'll tell you more about that later. And then the second is sharing, secure sharing. So how do you manage your passwords? How do you share passwords? There's a couple of places that we've identified that are important. One, not just, you may have secure access on some of the important corporate apps, but also what about all the 40, 50, 60 web applications that we log into every day? So those aren't necessarily going to be on an SSO as an example. So one, you want some password protection on that. And 2 is social media. So a lot of marketing companies, they have Instagram or a Facebook or a LinkedIn or a Twitter account that they're actually sharing the passwords between all their marketing employees because they just have one account, so they need access to that to do whatever. So that's important to be that secure. So you don't want those social media accounts hacked. And also another one is IT, and even you as MSPs. So how are you sharing that password information of your customers' logins? There's different ways for secure notes that you can do in some solutions, or you have a secure spreadsheet, which may not be that secure and able to hack. So those cyber criminals are targeting those. And last really is secure authentication. So an MSP can also help bring in another layer of authentication, and not just 2-factor, but also biometric. What about your thumbprint or your face as an ID? So no matter where you're at, you don't even have to remember the password. You have a biometric device that can help with that. And so for your MSP, your practice, your employees, and your customers, we think it's really important to focus on all 3.
Yeah, and I think especially, with the move to remote workplace and people working more and more remotely, all 3 of these are so critical. I was talking to one MSP partner the other day that's really interested in using and making sure that they have that second layer of authentication on their VPN, because they have, customers who are logging in to their network via that VPN. So adding that second layer of authentication there is super critical. And then same with that secure sharing. we see this as such a risk or a gap in many companies' security posture is how they actually share passwords. I think many organizations assume it's not happening, but I think by making that assumption, they don't have a plan in place or give people a tool when it most likely is.
Yeah, exactly. And we surveyed IT professionals, and 90% of them said that managing user access is really important. Now, you may be using multiple tools or just one tool, but maybe need to expand your breadth and maybe look at finding a solution that offers all of them. So the single sign-on offers you integrated access and secure access to specific corporate applications, which is really important. Those are the core business. And so once you set that up, then you never need an extra password required. You can securely access it, and you can put parameters around it, you know, a geofence around it, or certain times of the day that it can be accessed to help log that in. So it really gives you, the MSP, good control over what's going on in your own environment and your customers. And we were working with a partner recently, and he said, well, the favorite thing about LastPass single sign-on functionality is the ease of use. It's pretty easy to set up and has been well received by end users so far. So ease of use is important because, you know, passwords, it adds a level of complication. And personally, I can no longer use Randy-1234. You know, I just exposed it. It's okay, I gave it up. But, you know, I mean, a lot of times we do that thing to help us remember. And so it's easy to help have advanced passwords, which you can set policies for. And the next one is secure sharing. So we did talk about this a little bit and already. So not every application is single sign-on. Again, IT pros really see this as a focus, and it's important. And you have developed a security practice. We're talking to a lot of MSPs that are actually adding on another specific security practice, and they're actually adding in LastPass, our solution, or other solutions as part of their security bundle. So they're acting as if, hey, this is important. We should just go ahead and purchase this bundle because we need to protect you, customer. And they're listening to you. And so the password management helps one with the password, the web passwords and all of those, but also the secure sharing. So you can do secure notes or share the passwords. Another example that I like to give is that some of our customers will encounter is the social media, and I think I did cover that already. And we're finding that is a common use case. And then the last is the secure authentication. So this is really the deeper level, and I think it hasn't really caught on. It's starting to, but it's really important. So you can help be a leader with your customers to help them not just do SSO and password management, but secure all their authentication with some sort of MFA, multi-factor authentication. And so you can set that up again with biometrics like a fingerprint or a face or an app on the phone that you have that third layer of authentication that really locks down the network and helps them protect all the access to their apps. And then, so the LastPass solution. So we've come up, we launched it this summer. We're really excited about it. It's very elegant. So a lot of you may be LastPass customers already. We give it away free to individual users, individual personal accounts. So we're finding the MSPs we're talking to are familiar with it. It's a best-in-class product. But now we've been able to take this leading password management and then we made it multi-tenancy. So you now can have one account, can create sub-accounts for your customers and offer single sign-on and password management and manage them with all within one single pane of glass. It's really elegant. You can manage your own team seats in there too. You can set up password policies either at a company level or down to the user or group level. And it's really easy to get onboarded and get started. It's a consumption-based billing, which I know that all of you like. You know, pay each month for the seats that your customers are using, and then you can really dig in work on those comprehensive security policies to help protect yourselves and your customers.
Awesome. Thanks for the quick overview. So now we're actually going to dive into a demo where I'm going to be able to show you guys the product live and speak to some of those benefits that Randy just covered. So just going to jump over. You should all be able to see now my LastPass account. All right, so where I'm landed on right here is actually our LastPass Vault. And so the LastPass Vault is going to be the hub for your customers or employees for managing their credentials and passwords. So our Vault primarily functions through a browser extension that you can either instruct your customers to install, or we have scripts that you can use to push the installation to your customers. And with this browser extension, you're able to automatically fill passwords, save passwords, generate passwords, all from the central box. So for example, I can generate a secure password and really determine, the password length. So whenever I'm generating one, say I want it to be at least 24, I want to include uppercase, lowercase numbers, symbols. I can kind of create all those specifications and create this random password that then autofills and saves into my Vault. So me personally, as a LastPass user, I do not know any of my passwords. They're all randomized passwords that I generate through the Generate Secure Password feature of LastPass. In the Vault is where your end users or customers are able to see all their passwords. So we do break them out depending on different categories. So you can see here we have passwords. We have the option to do notes. So a lot of companies use this as a way to save and share things that may not fit generically into the password category. Addresses, payment cards, bank account, databases, SSH keys, they're all just ways to kind of organize your Vault to make it simple to save and fill items. So as an end user, I find payment cards really helpful, and I hear this from some of our MSPs as well. As an MSP, as a business, you have one payment card that you tend to put expenses on, software, etc., and multiple people need to access it. So adding in LastPass and sharing it amongst your teammates who need access to that credit card is a great way to go about it. Other areas I'd like to point out in the Vault is this ability to link an account. So as Randy mentioned, we have so many people who are personal users. So by linking their account, they can ensure that both their personal passwords and business passwords autofill as they go through their day. They don't need to log into 2 different browser extensions. Of course, people who link their accounts, the company is not able to see anything into that personal account. It's kept separate on the back end. The other thing I wanted to call out here is our sharing center. So as I mentioned, a huge use case that we hear for using LastPass amongst both MSPs and our customers is sharing passwords or credentials. So for MSPs, a lot of times it's sharing those admin credentials, passwords with the technicians who are responsible for managing those accounts. And what's cool about LastPass is you can give people different levels of permissions to those shared passwords depending on their role in the organization. So for example, you can determine someone's an administrator, meaning they can change the password. You can hide the passwords from individuals so they're not able to actually see the credential, but still being able to access the site. And you can also make it read-only so they can't make any changes to the credential. The other thing we recently launched was a security dashboard. So we're actually able to not only give your employees and your customers an overview of their at-risk passwords, multi-factor authentication, trusted devices, permitted mobile devices, and give them an overall security score. But we also offer dark web monitoring. So we look at the different emails and credentials that they have saved in the LastPass account and alert the end users if we see them on the dark web. So then your customers and employees know that they should go in and update those accounts as quickly as possible. So this is mostly related to password management, but I also want to call out that in this app, we also have our single sign-on. database here. So if you set up single sign-on for your customers or for your organization, they can access those applications right through the cloud apps in their vault. And then also once they're authenticated, they could go directly to these websites and gain access. So this is really how end users and your customers would mostly use LastPass. As an MSP, though, I'm sure you're interested in some of the admin consoles, so I'm going to go over to our admin console. So the admin console is only available for administrators of the solution. So logging in, I'm on our dashboard page, and I'm in the master account. So this would be the master account where the MSP would go to perform maintenance, add their own users, add their own technicians, add their customers' accounts, set up policies, and perform all the configurations. So this dashboard gives a quick overview of how this master account's doing. Under applications here, we have exactly where you would go to add single sign-on applications. As I think Randy mentioned briefly, we have integrations with over 1,200 SAML-enabled applications, making it pretty easy to actually go in and add an application and then assign users to it. We also have password apps. These are applications that may be falling outside of single sign-on, but you want to pre-populate either your employees or customers' vaults with. You can do that through the password apps. So users, this is where you get a view over who in your MSP has licenses and their roles. With LastPass, you can add users either through just adding their names in, separating from comment, it will send them an invitation. We also offer automated provisioning through AD Connector as well. LastPass, if you aren't using AD Connector or using groups, you can pull those into your LastPass account, but also you can create groups however it makes sense for your business. Usually these are aligned to resources, so certain shared folders that teams need to access, or if there's one team that needs to be have slightly higher security policies applied to it, then you may want to make it a separate group. Shared folders, this is where you can have insight as an admin into all the different shared folders currently available at your MSP. Reporting, I know this is important from a MSP perspective. So LastPass offers a variety of different reports. I think what's super interesting is the security report, so you can ensure that you're stopping any poor security behavior. I'm going to come back to the managed companies and just jump down to settings. I really wanted to call it here our policies. So LastPass, we have over 100 custom policies that you can apply depending on what makes sense for your organization and your customers' organizations. We have some that come from default, so definitely, and then recommended, so ones that you should apply. And they tend to be kind of characterized by different security. So, for example, access to shared folders, or prohibiting sharing except for shared folders, or length of master password. We also tend to get a few questions about the multi-factor authentication. So this is, adding that second layer of authentication to accessing LastPass, which we definitely recommend doing. And so we integrate with a bunch of different authenticators, including our own authenticator, as well as large ones that are quite popular, Google or Microsoft Authenticator. Directory integrations, so we do have the AD Connector. We also integrate with Azure, Okta, and OneLogin if you're using any of their directory services. And then the other piece I like to call out are just these email notifications, because I think they're quite handy. So we offer a bunch of different notifications that you can configure for your organization or your customer's organization to prompt good behavior. So, for example, if someone reused their master password, then they can get an automated email from LastPass telling them to change that password. Or if they have weak passwords, they can get that automated email making sure they update those passwords. All right, now I'm going to jump to this Managed Companies tab. So this Managed Companies tab is really the hub for you as the MSP for managing your customers. So how our program works is that we are going to preload your account with a set number of licenses depending on your size and which customers you want to sell to. And then once those licenses are pre-configured, you can determine how they're allocated. And then based on active usage, we'll bill you at the end of the month for users who are tagged with an email to LastPass. So this just gives a quick overview of how many licenses you have available and how many licenses you have active, and then a quick snapshot of the security score of all your customers. So there's a few key actions you can take from here. So for example, you can add a managed company. So say that you are onboarding a new company and you want to add them, then you can go in and just do that right here. Just say 20. They have 12 employees. So let's allocate 12 licenses to them. All right, and there's my managed company 15 with about 12 licenses in them. There's a few other actions I can take right from this dashboard. I can export the managed companies, so I can have a shot of everyone who I'm working with, as well as export the users list. If I click on this, I can also have a few more actions. You can allocate additional licenses to that master account. You can return licenses. If you allocate too many, you need to bring some back to your master account. You're able to do that. You're able to suspend an account, and you're able to detach it, so remove it from your MSP entirely. If you want to perform maintenance on this account, you can quickly go in and open the admin console of your customer. And here you'll see it very closely mirrors the admin console of your master account. You have the same options throughout, but this provides you the option to go and configure things specifically for that customer, assign users specifically to that customer account. And then when you're done performing maintenance, you can jump back to your master account and perhaps go into another company to manage. And it's really that simple for you as an MSP to have one spot where you can kind of keep track of all the billing and management of your customers while keeping their accounts completely separate so they stay secure. All right, I know that was a super quick demo, but I wanted to make sure I left time for questions. Laura, have we had any questions come in?
Yes, we have. We've had a couple of questions come in, and let me just pull up the question pane. What is the license minimum?
So we don't have a specific minimum for per customer. I think that we find that most of our MSPs, they serve anywhere, more SMB space, so we don't limit it.
Yeah, like Rebecca said, we'll enable you with a certain number to meet your customer base, the endpoints that you're managed, say 350 or 500, and then you can provision sub-accounts within that with any number of seats.
So then they're not billed until the licenses actually become active?
Correct. And
Correct.
Yeah, when they're assigned, and then we also
when they're assigned.
We also give the MSP at that starting level 10 seats for their own internal use.
10 seats?
Yep, 10 seats for their employees.
Okay. That leads to another question that has come up as well. What happens when someone leaves? How easy is it to revoke or change top-level passwords?
So I think that's what's great about LastPass, and one of the main use cases that we hear from our customers is actually deprovisioning people when they leave and ensuring that they don't leave with those access to their LastPass account or those shared passwords. So removing a user from LastPass is quite straightforward. And then say, you want to go through and update some of those shared passwords to ensure that they're no longer able to access those accounts. That's something that you can do as well. And it would auto update to anyone else who needs access to those shared credentials with the new password.
And then another great feature with our free personal users. So an individual can sign up for LastPass for their own bank accounts and their own things like that. And they could link that personal account to the business account. So they don't have to store the personal passwords in their business account, then when they leave the company, they can decouple and take their personal passwords with them.
That's a really nice feature because there is such a large population of users that have it for their personal stuff, and then to have to log into multiple LastPass accounts in order to see everything, especially if they're using their own mobile devices perhaps to log into something. That's a really, really nice feature. I didn't know that, Randy. You taught me something. I thought I knew everything about this. That's really cool. Okay, another question came in about the integration. Becca, you showed a little bit of it in the demo. The question arose around authenticators. When the two-factor or the multi-factor authentication happens, does LastPass store that, and how seamlessly does that work?
I'm not sure about the storage question. I can double check, but so how the multi-factor authentication integrates with LastPass is really in terms of logging into your LastPass vault. So for example, LogMeIn makes it a requirement that we authenticate before we are able to log into LastPass. So once I log onto LastPass in the morning when I open my browser, I receive an authentication prompt on my phone, which I accept, and then I'm able to access all my passwords. And I found it to be quite seamless and easy to use as an end user of LastPass.
Okay. Another question came in. Can users print out their data? In other words, can they generate a hard copy of their passwords, etc.?
So we do offer the ability to export passwords from your vault. So that's a functionality we do offer.
Is it possible to turn that function off in case somebody doesn't want to have that extra entry point for security concerns?
Yeah, that's a security policy. An organization can determine whether or not they want to apply.
And that would all be done right from that MSP control panel. They can just set that policy and prevent that. Okay. Another question came in. How quickly, when you devoke somebody, does that propagate through all of their devices?
I think it's pretty quickly. I'm not quite sure of the exact time, but I would almost say instantaneously, maybe a 5-minute delay.
Okay. If there are any more questions, please type them into the question pane. But as of now, we have answered all the questions that have come in. That demo and the presentation was so robust, and I want to thank both of you. And Rebecca, can you pass me back the screen, please?
Yes, of course.
And then, yeah, if you're interested, so we can please reach out to Laura, and we'll send you a link to sign up for your interest. And we'll get you engaged with one of our channel managers right away to answer more of your questions and to get you started.
Right. And another question just came in. If an employee leaves, how do their passwords get moved to another employee?
We offer the admin. There's an option for migrating accounts or transferring accounts based on what's included if an employee leaves.
Okay. And since we had that question that came in before we even started, can you explain what happens once somebody says they want to sign up and become a reseller and user of LastPass MSP, because they want that human element?
Right. Yeah. So one of our LastPass focused channel managers will reach out, kind of dig into this situation, learn a little bit more about you, send you a contract, have you sign that, we'll get your account provisioned, and then we'll want to get a little bit more information, and then we're going to have a one-on-one onboarding session with one of our solution consultants. We'll help you get off on the right foot, and in there we will encourage you to set up your own policies and your own users, and then create one of your first sub-account customer. That way you get live training from an expert and get you off on the right foot.
I love that. It's so critical, and you guys are known for that hands-on, and you guys are, LogMeIn is living and breathing work from home. You have now changed your entire company model, and it is 100% work from home, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we have the tools to enable work from home and supporting people for work from home, and we were on like a 3 to 5 year plan that we thought the society and the industry would go, but then COVID all of a sudden fast forwarded it to make it a reality. So we were really ready, and we're here to help you do MSPs for your partners and your customers.
Well, thank you as always for being here with us at SaaSmax Partner Optimizer. You've been a wonderful partner to us and to all of the partners that have signed up with you and in our community. So thank you very much, Randy. And Becca has dropped off video, but thank you. And I will connect everybody that wants to connect. There is a short survey at the end, and Becca is back. Yes.
I'm back to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
And we have a special offer from SaaSmax Partner Optimizer to do an audit of your website to help you improve your SEO and refine how you're communicating to your prospects and customers. And I am here to connect you to the folks at LastPass MSP, LogMeIn, Randy and Becca. Thank you again so much. And to all of you on the webinar today or watching it in replay, because we know tech happens and you might not have been able to catch us live. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone, and be safe. Use LastPass MSP.